this works okay. Hooray, you can see me. All right, hello and welcome. Welcome to everybody who's joining us online as well. That's not the right one, is it? It's this one. This one's that I want. I was close. Hey, start again. Hello and welcome to the 117th Melbourne AWS user group. And we're keeping our streak going. Thank you for everybody who's shown up in person. I know a lot of people may not feel particularly comfortable coming into the city at the moment. Hopefully you're joining us on the live stream or you're watching this playback later. Either way, welcome, and let's get started. Always get my thing out. So in the spirit of reconciliation, the Melbourne AWS user group acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Straight into it, this is our agenda for tonight. We've got some great talks coming up, but before that I'll try and get through my introductions bit as quick as I can. And then we have a news segment with Ian and Dawn, who will take us through what's changed in the world of AWS in the last month, and I think it's been a pretty busy month. Some interesting stuff that's been happening. Then our first presentation will be from Jason on a first of a two-parter about managing your instances at scale, including some cool new stuff that's been coming through. And then our second presentation after that will be from Maya. And that's modernizing your monolithic financial apps. This should be a good one, breaking up your big apps into using the AWS services. So it should be very interesting. Next button. So we ask that you don't interrupt the speakers at all. If you want to ask a question, please wait until the end. It just helps the evening flow a little bit better. It helps them to feel more comfortable and so on. You can, and you're more than welcome to, at the end of the presentation, to ask your questions. If you're here in the audience, pop your hand up and we'll bring the microphone around to you. Or if you're watching online, you can ask right there on YouTube in the comments, or feel free to use the Melbourne channel on Slack or the AWS Melb hashtag, which nobody ever does, so I might take that one out. YouTube or Slack is probably best there. And then I will ask those questions on your behalf to the speaker as well. With regards to questions and the rest of the evening, please remember that we run our events under a code of conduct, the summary of which is on the board. Please be respectful to each other. And if you do have any concerns or anything else that you would like to speak about, please come and grab one of the organisers. You can also use the contact forms on the website, which I believe is anonymous. And there are some other contact ways of doing that as well, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Now, sponsors. Our sponsors help pay for these events. They help pay for the catering and for everything else, and they make sure that we can actually provide these events to you for free of charge. So a big thank you to our gold sponsor, CMD, and our silver sponsors, Versant and Civo. Let's have a round of applause for those guys. As well to our venue sponsor, NAB, who provide this space for us. So thank you to NAB. All right, so as mentioned previously, we do have a reasonably active Slack team. There's 900 and something people on there at the moment who are active at various times of the week. There's good general channel for general chat, asking questions, getting help if you're stuck or if you're learning about AWS. There's jobs and volunteers channels, which are a little bit less active, but still good places to be. And a couple of ones with some bots, like around AWS outages and announcements and stuff like that, which can get active depending on what's just happened. But link is on the website if you want to join into that. It's a good place to ask your questions and just participate in the community in general. There are other ways to get involved, though. We are always looking for speakers. Finding and encouraging speakers is probably the hardest part of putting these events on. Ordering catering is pretty easy. No offense, Matt. But actually finding the speakers is the hard part for this. So if you do have something you're interested in presenting about, big or small, it doesn't have to be a 20-minute long, perfectly crafted slide deck. It could be a 10-minute walkthrough of some cool tool that you've discovered, or something you've learned, or something you're keen to share. It can be on anything, really. Like some of the best tools we have is somebody's come up and just plugged their laptop in and given us a walkthrough of something they've found. Share the excitement, share the enthusiasm, and we're more than happy to help mentor you through the speaking process if you've never spoken before. It's a great way to get started. We are looking for sponsors soon. Yep. If you are interested in sponsoring, I'm getting a big nod of the head from the back. If you are interested in sponsoring, keep an eye out. We'll be sending out some notice soon on that. And volunteers, to help set up and tear down and all those sorts of things, more hands are always welcome. Okay, for some stuff that's going on around in the AWS space your general reminder, we'll probably stop reminding you because everybody knows now that reInvent is on again this year. You can go in person if you want to go in person. If not, you can sign up and just watch it online like I will be, because I can't convince any of the people I work for to pay for my trip. So sadly, I'm staying here this year. Closer to home, the AWS database meetup is on again, and this time they've got a couple of database specialists from AWS in to help take you through the database migration service, which is one of those ones where you don't need to use it very often, but when you do, it becomes very important.
Should that be August instead of July?
Probably should be August instead of July, yep. Good call out, thank you. Yes, definitely August instead of July. That's what happens when you reuse slides. And the serverless meetup is on again next month as well. They're back for the second month, which is awesome. Not so much AWS focused this year, but they do a lot of overlap with what we do. So if you're into serverless and that sort of stuff, definitely check this one out.
And that one is on the 18th of August.
Is it on the 18th? Oh, man. Sorry, on the 18th of August. Yeah. Knew something was going to go wrong. I didn't expect it to be in my slides, which I think that's the last one anyway. So I'll get out of the way, and we'll throw over to Arjen and Dawn to take us through the news.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks everybody for coming.
Arjen, you're too tall.
Thank you. Well, just then for the back,
Take
more to the
several.
front.
No, that works.
Excellent.
We're visible now.
Cool. Then let's go through the news. What's been new since we last met? This time we do have several new announcements of things that came to Sydney. The first of which is I4I instances. These are Intel-based instances based on having internal storage. It's the newest generation. i3s were here before. Basically, if you have i3s, update them. If you don't use them, you're probably not that interested in this announcement.
Unless you want to set up a new database, in which case this is one of your better options.
Yep.
And we've got Workspaces Web has come to Sydney. That is sort of a built on top of Amazon Workspaces. If you want to have Workspaces clients which are entirely accessible over the web, that is the tool that you are looking for. So if you do things based on Amazon Workspaces, you probably want to have a look at that.
Yep. And the last one here is the new RDS multi-AC option. We've spoken about this a couple of times in the past, but basically this is where instead of having a useless RDS instance that is only there in case something fails for failover, you have two reader instances that it will fail over to in different ACs.
Very, very happy that this one is actually in Sydney, so many of us consultants will probably get to play with it soon, which is nice.
Yep. Cool. Then serverless. SAM Accelerate is generally available, and I forgot what that one was.
That is... I shouldn't mental blank on this. It's built on top of the serverless application model, and it allows you to do essentially cloud-based testing of your functions locally, so you can mirror your local environment up to the cloud. If I was doing a lot of serverless, it seems like the sort of thing that I would probably go and play around with. So if you are doing a lot of serverless work, it supports all of the usual culprits, your Lambda, your step functions, I think API gateway. If you're doing a lot of serverless workloads, I would be very, very curious to have someone come and give a talk at some point about how well this works.
Yep. And then we've got Lambda Power Tools for TypeScript. A couple months ago, we had Michael Walmsley give a talk here about Lambda Power Tools for Python. Hopefully everybody was there for it, or otherwise you can watch it on YouTube. Basically, he showed how useful it is, and that was just the Python version. If you like to use TypeScript instead, that is now also a fully, generally available. It was in beta for a long time, I believe. Now you can use it.
Yeah. The other two are both sort of security-ish or security tangential, so probably more in my domain. The Lambda source function ARN is quite interesting in the sense that now whenever you run a Lambda, it will have a source function ARN identifier attached to it. So if you are doing policy-based scoping, it allows you to actually scope that down to not just traffic coming from a particular VPC, but combinations of specific function. VPC, you can get quite... Have I lost the microphone? No. You can get quite granular with that now, which is nice. And the attribute-based access control basically allows you to do permissions for Lambda in bulk based on attributes of users, roles, or groups, rather than having to manually set it up every time. So also always a good thing.
Yep. Definitely good. Not much on the container side. You can run EKS anywhere now on bare metal. Could go on a long rant about that, but I would say don't.
Yeah, I'll endorse don't. If you are doing Kubernetes, if you do have one of the valid use cases for Kubernetes and you're thinking you might like to try this, think very before you do it, would be my advice.
Yep. So moving on to more interesting stuff. A lot in here on DevOps. My favorite is going to be the CloudFormation event notifications with EventBridge. So what has happened here is that you can now CloudFormation on certain actions like stack changes you can hook it up to EventBridge so that EventBridge sends notifications. And you can hook that up, as you know, EventBridge basically connects to every AWS service there is. So you can do a lot of fun stuff with this. From basic stuff like you have a stack that goes into delete failed, you get a notification on your Slack channels. There's so much to play around with here. I've got many ideas. I'm not going to talk about them all, but it's good.
My second favorite on here, because I think Ian and I share a favorite, is being able to programmatically manage the contact information for your AWS accounts. You can do that both for an individual AWS account and from organizations. I love this because it's such a simple change, which is likely to... a lot of people don't even know that you can manage the contact information from within orgs. It's a simple change, which means that if you ever get notifications from AWS going, something has really completely blown up, you can now make sure that the contacts for that are actually going to the right place. If you have a big org with lots of contact information and you've never looked at this, now you can do it programmatically. It's well worth having a look at because it's a very small change that can potentially save you if AWS gets grumpy with you about anything.
The other one I'd like to point out here is just the CloudWatch logs integration for Visual Studio Code. It's nice when you're able to just look at your logs in your editor instead of having to go through the CloudWatch CloudWatch Logs interface. Although I'd always say just use CloudWatch Logs Insights, I think, where you can properly search it, which is way better. But an eye on time. Let's move to security.
Oh, there's some interesting stuff here. The network firewalls supporting VPC prefix lists was something that when I was looking at the announcements, I sort of glazed over. And then on the second look back, I went and had another look at it and thought, actually, this is really, really powerful because it allows you to scope everything down. Again, with a lot of these security and security-ish things that we've got on the slides here, it allows you to scope everything down much more carefully, which is always a very good thing. Probably not all that many people are using network firewalls and would need this, but if you've got edge cases, this is going to be quite good.
Yep. So something I enjoy here. First, AWS SSO, as per this morning, has been renamed to IAM Identity Center. I propose that everybody forgets that the part IAM is in there because it doesn't make any sense to be called the Identity Access Manager Identity Center. So just call it Identity Center. Basically treat it like Session Manager.
ATM machine.
But bigger news there is it now finally supports customer managed policies as well as I forgot the term.
It supports customer managed policies. It also supports permissions boundaries. Is
That's
the other new thing.
That's the name
Yep.
I was looking for. Basically, previously, all you could do is attach specific AWS provided policies or have one big inline policy.
And by specific, they were very, very limited. Being able to attach customer managed policies, it's now much less limited. It gives you a lot more flexibility, and it means that people are much more likely to actually be able to go in and edit what they're doing rather than attaching the same inline policy to 10 or 20 different groups. So the name change we can take or leave, but the customer managed policies and the permissions boundaries, this is quite good. You can now manage all of that much more readily and shoot yourself in the foot less often.
Yep. One major thing about this, though, the way it works is that you have to provision those policies and permission boundaries to each account that you're going to use it in yourself. So it's not that you define them once, you have to deploy them to all your accounts. So automate that.
Yeah, potentially a use case for stack sets.
Yep.
The firewall manager supporting the additional configurations is something that, again, probably not a lot of people are going to use, but I'm vaguely aware of at least one case where, particularly with the strict rule order, what used to happen was my understanding is what used to happen was AWS would just evaluate this based on an AWS predetermined order. That used to be a use case for a lot of third-party firewall applications. It may well be that with this, that's now no longer the case, and you can do some of those things that you used to have to offload to third-party firewalls through Firewall Manager. So that will be super interesting to see where that lands.
Cool. And the last one I would want to discuss here is for those of us who don't have absolutely everything in AWS, IAM roles anywhere basically is a new way to be able to assume roles within AWS. So if you're on-prem or at third-party services that needed a connection within AWS or work on other clouds that make a connection with AWS, you always had to provide API keys. That was not exactly seen as, best practice security-wise, because nobody ever rotates those keys. Now you can set it up in such a way, there's a whole thing around it, and you have to use private certificate manager, but you can provision temporary roles that can be assumed from your on-prem or otherwise provided systems, which is way more secure if you need this kind of access. So if you have a situation like that, definitely look into this. There's a good blog post on how everything works, how you set it up. It's a bit of work to set it up, but after that, it's definitely worth it from a security standpoint.
Yeah, it's good if you're not in the walled garden.
Other cool stuff. Now that Apple has released M2 Macs, it's good that AWS now supports the M1s. I joke, but it is nice to see these finally released, as well as R6A instances, which are the AMD version of the R6 type, which is the memory optimized instances.
The VPC flow logs now supporting Transit Gateway is another one of those sort of security-ish announcements. It's something that I expect in environments that have those sorts of compliance or regulatory needs, that it probably is going to be something that people look at. I believe that actually used to be an argument against using Transit Gateway for things, is you couldn't plug it. You didn't have the VPC flow log support. Now you do. That's likely to significantly simplify a lot of people's networking, shall we say.
Yep. And Redshift serverless is out. This is the last of the 4 not so serverless version, services that were announced at reInvent. Yes, it is. There's less to manage. It's not completely serverless. Still, if you use Redshift, check it out and see if it suits your needs. As always with these things, there is different use cases where it will be useful.
Yeah, and the well-architected tool integrating with AWS organizations, that's in some respects, that's a cosmetic change, but it's the sort of cosmetic change that is going to make everyone's life much easier again. And I always like seeing those announcements where AWS makes the changes that people have wanted or that people have been asking for ages.
Yep.
And I think that's us.
Yes, it is. We even lost the screen. I don't know how that happened. That's not my background.
All right, we'll get you plugged in. As soon as we see you're up here. Yep, I've got your desktop again. You're mirroring at the moment.
Yep.
Hey, that even works this time.
Awesome.
All right, you want to hit
Wonderful.
play on that?
Yep.
All right, while Jason finishes that off, I'll do a quick intro. So this is Jason. He likes to do AWS stuff, dress up as plastic spacemen. Spacemen? Spacemen.
Yeah.
Spacemen, multiple men, with the 501st Legion, so spacemen. And is an occasional dungeon master. So over to you, Jason.
G'day. Yeah, so my talk today is all right. Better. Yeah, so I'm Jason, and I'm going to be talking about Systems Manager. I was having a look through recently, and yeah, saw there's a whole slew of new features, and got a little bit excited. So I thought, yeah, I'll make up a talk. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past and present. little bit about me. I work for Telstra Purple in Managed Services. I'm the AWS lead consultant there. I've got a bunch of AWS certs, and I was previously an AWS ambassador and soon to get that back, hopefully. Mostly I post on LinkedIn, and you can find me there, jasonwood01. And I have 2 dogs, one of them in that photo there. All right, so who uses EC2 instances? Yep, cool. And how many of you actually utilize SSM? Okay, not too many. I think, hopefully after this talk and my next one, you may start using it a little bit more. So the SSM is a suite of tools used to manage servers. There is a hybrid option. Oh, lost. Just wait. Okay, cool, we're back. So there's a hybrid option, so you can support on-prem and other clouds, but I'm not going to cover that today. There's just so much in SSM. So what does SSM have? It's basically split into 4 sections. Operations management, so tools to manage instances. It's pretty cool. They can tie into like CloudWatch events and raise instance issues in the operations management. Application management, which sort of manages apps running on your EC2, and that's also where parameter store lives. There's change management section. It says there, tools to manage the change process. And what I'm going to be covering is the node management. So there's a whole stack of tools in there, way more than I can fit in one Prezzo. So I'm just going to be focusing on a couple of those. One of the big things with SSM is you do need a bit of configuration to get started and get it all working. The SSM agent comes default on a whole bunch of AMIs already. So, Amazon Linuxes, SUSE, Ubuntu, Mac OS, and Windows. Anything else, you'll need to install the agent yourself. It does make it so much easier if you use one with that's pre-installed. Also a tip is make sure you constantly get the latest version of the agent. Sort of a bit like the CLI, constantly adding new features. New features are constantly being added to SSM, and you really need the latest agent to make use of those. Once you've got the agent, it actually needs to be able to talk to the SSM services, so you need some form of internet egress or preferably VPC endpoints. 3 main ones you need directly for SSM, SSM messages, EC2 messages, but also 2, you want S3 endpoint that'll allow you to do your updates, and there's a whole lot of extra stuff that you need KMS for now. So you want KMS endpoint. Along with all of that, the instances actually need to be able to talk or have permissions to use the services. So you need to make sure that your EC2 instances have a role with appropriate permissions, and AWS has a policy for that. That's your Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core. So once you've got all that, then your servers should be able to talk to SSM. There's also a bunch of cool stuff that you can do from the CLI. I'll be mainly covering that in the next talk, but for that you want to have the Session Manager plugin. It doesn't work directly from the AWS CLI. So all of this stuff, if you do a search for AWS SSM agent, that should pull up the link that I've got there, and it's got all the details for how to configure everything. SSM also does have some quick setups, but yeah, I've never used them, and yeah, if you want to have a look, have a look. So the first tool that I'll be looking at is Fleet Manager. And this was really the one that sort of made me jump in and have another look at SSM and extra tools. To get the most functionality out of this, you do need to have KMS enabled, which is set up not in Fleet Manager, but in Session Manager preferences. So just a little tip there, don't ask me why. So when you first jump into Fleet Manager, you'll get a home screen with a list of all your agents and servers, and then you'll get something like this screen that I've got in the image here. So as you can see, got a whole stack of tools there. File system, so that allows you to browse the file systems of your instances. You got performance counters, so your CPU and memory usage. So memory usage is cool. It's not something that CloudWatch gives you without the agent, so that's nice to jump in. You can check out processes and users and groups, and for Windows servers, you can also view the event logs and the registry. Also, as you can see from the drop down, you can start terminal sessions. So that's something straight from Session Manager. It gives you either SSH or PowerShell if you're on Windows. The very cool thing is connect with remote desktop. So RDP straight from your browser. So let's jump in and see if the demo gods will be good to me. And I am just going to switch my display. Hey, cool. Oh, no, not that one. This one. All right, so, and don't worry about all these. I'm going to blow this account away once we finish. So yeah, I just put together a little test with a couple of instances. As you can see, I've got a Linux and a Windows. Have a look. No public IP addresses. No inbound security groups. Same for the Windows server. I've got my VPC endpoints. And here's the route table, so no routes to go anywhere other than S3. So let's jump across to Systems Manager. When you first log in, so you can see here are all of the different services, and there's quite a number there. If I can actually click. Systems Manager is not the fastest service, so there we go. Awesome. This looks like it is not behaving for me. Yay. All right. In the... thank you. That will be it. Yes. Thanks, Dawn. All right. Just wait while we bring this up. And hey, awesome. So, as I said, this is the initial screen when you have your Fleet Manager, so you can see your instances. And across here you can see the agents online and the version of your agent. So, let's just jump in Linux. And bingo. you can search through and browse your instances. So really handy if you've got a whole fleet of stuff, servers that you want to go to. There's no more having to jump onto a jump box. As you saw, like there's no outside connectivity for these servers, so you don't need jump box or a workspace. Just jump straight in and browse through, and you can create directories there if you want, but there's a whole slew of extra actions that you can do. Copy the path to the file. Okay, great. Delete, rename. If it's a text file, you can even bring up the context, and you can tail the file. So if you've got a log that you want to look at, so I thought this was actually very cool. Performance counters, I said, first three, we can get that from CloudWatch just straight, but memory usage without having to install CloudWatch Agent, this gets you there. And selling processes. You do need to wait, but it's actually so much better than having to jump into everywhere. So as you would suspect, you can sort of terminate processes and things, but you can also start processes. So really nice. Using groups, that's, you can create users and so forth. Along with creating users as well, is you can reset user passwords. So a bunch of these you actually need to have KMS enabled for this. Some of these features you don't, but like the resetting passwords and some of the ones where you browse in a lot further, KMS is absolutely required. Now let's just jump back to our Windows server. And this is one that I really, really loved. So, remote desktop. And waiting, but bang. Now I can click this and you get full screen, but everyone knows what full screen is. But you've got your full access that you can go and do what you need for your Windows servers. Yeah, man. So that is Fleet Manager, which, I've just blown away by all those extra features. And, if you're managing a whole bunch of EC2 instances, especially Windows servers, that this, remote desktop straight from your browser is awesome. Obviously, one thing that it does mean, now that you've got all this access, just make sure the permissions that you give your users are appropriate. So let me jump back to the presentation. All right. All right, the next tool that I'll be looking at is State Manager. So basically this lets you have effectively runbooks that you can configure for your EC2 instances. You do that with what AWS call associations. So yeah, they're basically documents and cron schedules put together. There's a whole stack of pre-built ones that AWS already has, or you can create your own documents and use those. One thing with not just State Manager, pretty much all of Systems Manager is cron probably doesn't work exactly as you would expect. So there is a document that you can have a look at which will explain all this, but rather than copying down this link, I'm about to jump into another demo State Manager, and I'll show you where you can easily find that link. All right, so let me jump back into my screen mirroring. All right. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot to show with Fleet Manager is in the settings here, there's a very easy way to configure to auto update your SSM agent. So when you first jump in, there's just basically a button which says automate. You click that, and that actually creates an association which you can see within State Manager. So let's go down here. All right, so we've got this is the association that gets created for updating your SSM agent. But let me show you a couple of associations that I really love. Again, really handy if you're managing EC2 instances, especially in a dev environment. So let's just call this EC2 stop. As you can see here, these are all the AWS created, and just from the number you can see there's like a huge amount of documents that AWS already has. Tip, if you want to search, it is case sensitive, so yeah, make sure you've spelled things right. And here we go, stop EC2 instance. As you can see, you can also do this with Aurora clusters and RDS and so forth. So we choose that. You've got two options here, simple execution. So if you just want to do it either on specific EC2 instances or like all instances, you can go like that. Or I generally use rate control because from there you can target based on tags. So let me just jump back here. And so I have a tag set up. All right, so you can see because I've chosen to use tags, it's grayed out the option to put in specific instances. As you can see from this checkbox here, if you do go with the simple execution, you can either put in a list of instance IDs or you can browse them with that checkbox. You do need an automation role that these are going to run as. Up here, it's really helpful. SSM says, use the service linked role to allow State Manager to manage AWS resources. It lies. Do not use that role. It does sweet FA. Instead, AWS actually have another policy called Amazon SSM automation role, which does work. So go and create your own role with for SSM using that policy, not the one that they tell you to use. Found that out the hard way, but yes. So SSM, as you can see here, AWS service role for Amazon SSM, do not use. All right. So you can either just run it once, or generally you'll want to do this on a schedule using cron. Or you can do a rate scheduler. That's your, every X minutes, hours, days. This learn more. This will take you to the link of, what SSM cron is. So let's just fire that up. So yeah, there's your reference for cron on Systems Manager, and if we scroll down, it gives you some examples, etc. You can go browse that at your leisure, but yeah, that's where you find it there. So let's just go to the schedule builder. Let's go daily, every day. Now, here's one of the limitations with that cron. I know, usually you can say, hey, I want to do it Monday through Friday in my cron. Unfortunately, no. You can do it every day, or you can name the days. So if you just want to run this weekdays, you'll have to do like 5 different schedules, one for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or every Sunday. And the other cool thing, like so many of the AWS services, it's in UTC. All right. This one, apply association only at the next specified cron interval. If you don't check that, it will run straight away, as well as on the interval. I am doing a stop. Be careful. I think I've got a space. No? Instance ID, tags. What did it say? Valid unsupported. Oh, hang on. Helps if I hit the add. Yep. All right. So, yeah, make sure you click the add when you select the tags that you want. All right, create association, and away we go. So you can see here it's picked up the resources, and because I forgot to check that only run, my instances are stopping. So yeah, just be very careful of that checkbox, because you don't want to select your, even if they're dev instances and you're doing it, during the daytime, your devs probably won't be happy if all of their tagged instances suddenly stop. So the inverse of that is the start instances. Right, so pretty much the same thing, so I'll just whip through this. Adding it this time. See, I can learn. All right, so now what happens when we click the, apply association only at the cron specified time. Now, let me just make sure these are, yep, they're stopped now. All right, this is sitting in here. No resources are showing. And if I refresh this, nothing is happening. So, that's probably a good one to make sure you have checked if you're doing a stop or anything that's potentially, destructive. One of the other cool things though is you can see apply association now. So if you've got an association, say a stop, and you just want to stop everything that's tagged like that, like now, click that and that will apply the association. And we can see it's selected the resources. And they're now starting to come up. All right. So that's pretty much the end of my talk. I could go on and on. There's still a whole stack of them, especially around Session Manager. But yeah, I think that's coming up to time. Anyone? Yep.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, especially while I've got the demo open.
Hang on, just bring this to you.
You mentioned getting the permissions right for users. With the fleet, is it called fleet management?
Fleet Manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way to block things like file system or registry for users?
I don't think you can lock individual items there. One thing I didn't get around to checking yet, but yeah, just the access to SSM itself, those sorts of things that you want to have a look and see what people can, what you want people to be able to access. So maybe not everyone needs SSM. So, if they don't need it, make sure they don't have it. So yeah, just general good housekeeping practice. There's some other stuff that I'll show you, next time around the session manager. That's got some cool logging and stuff like that you do want to turn on. But that's for another talk.
Were there any other questions?
Yeah. The same in the fit manager. When we do that about that, some action can be turned on about that the audit for that things, just like about in that the section manager things.
So find my cursor and jump into. So session manager, there's a lot more logging that you can do, but there's not really a whole lot extra that you can sort of turn on with Fleet Manager. So yeah, it's not quite as good, but yeah, like some of these things are more more so they're configured within Session Manager. And again, so I'll go into that in the next talk. But yeah, Fleet Managers, there's not quite as much to lock down there. So, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is still fairly new that's come out. So, AWS is constantly adding new features, fixing things that that may not be. As I said, I started this talk because I went back and had a look at some of the things. Previously most people were probably using parameter store, great. and I was using Session Manager a fair bit, but I hadn't really looked at a lot of the other things. And the new features in Fleet Manager, that made me sort of step back and take another look and go like, hey, this stuff's pretty cool.
Thank you, Jason.
Cool, no worries.
All right.
Right, so before, is it Mia?
Yep. Maya.
Maya, sorry.
I also go by Mia.
Okay, that's what threw me off. Right, so Maya is a lead consultant / SRE / DevOps / cloud / platform / systems engineer. That's a mouthful. It's a lot of things. She tries to automate, document, and mentor herself out of a job. Her focus is on learning, developing, and growing, and providing others with learning opportunities. She is also a creative writer under the pseudonym Mia Flowers, and is working on the first novel of a pre-apocalyptic zombie fiction series called Premonitions. Is your talk about that? Because that sounds interesting.
Maybe in a different talk. Maybe not this one, though.
All right, I'll get out of your way then.
Great,
Over
thank
to you.
you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the intro there. This talk is going to not be anything work-related because it was about a pet project that I started to do several years ago. And yeah, it's titled Modernizing My Monolithic Financial Apps into SQS, Node.js, Lambda, APIs, Mongo Atlas. I forgot to add API Gateway in there. Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you can find me. I'm pretty much accept your connection request unless if you're going to spam me. Yeah, contents for this presentation. It's the second time I've done this presentation, by the way. The last time was 2 weeks ago at the Melbourne AWS user group. The slides look a bit different, but yeah. Sorry for another day. Content about me, disclaimer, phase 1, which was about the MetaTrader 4 platform. Phase 2 was splitting it up into Docker containers. Phase 3 was Gateway, Lambda, SQS, Mongo Atlas. What next? Maybe a live demo, we'll see. And questions about me. Yeah, the intro there was pretty good. Yeah, I guess I've started in a support background, call center, and so please be nice to the call center people out there. Yeah, eventually finding my way to get more into systems engineering, and now I guess cloud. I know this is AWS user group, but I do like to venture into Azure as well. Currently, I'm a lead consultant at CMD Solutions, which is part of the Mantle Group. CMD is one of our partners for this event, sponsors. More about me, I decided to run a coffee shop after I got made redundant from one of my telco jobs, and ran a coffee shop franchise for a few years, got into competitive sports paddling, got into creative writing as a hobby, and also getting back into gaming, which may or may not be a good thing. We'll see. I may have been obsessed with dragon boats, outrigger canoes, kayaks, and surf skis. Please don't let me try and recruit you into any of the clubs that do these. It might be a cult. I got really heavily involved with it when I was in Sydney. And I guess moving to Melbourne 3 years ago was a bit of a reset, and I got to focus more on myself and what I do. Maybe I'll go back to kayaking, but not competitively. We'll see. Maybe I could do a talk about that too. Standard disclaimer. I've probably said this a few times to various people over the years. past performance is not an indicator of future performance. It does not take into consideration your personal history or circumstances. This advice is general in nature. Please seek professional advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Okay, phase one. I got into trading because I was thinking of different ways to make money as a side job. Also, if I ever get rich from this, I probably will never leave my full-time job. I love it too much. MetaTrader 4 is pretty much the industry standard when it comes to retail trading. Big financial institutions will probably use wholesale platforms, different tools. But yeah, if you're just someone out in the street learning how to trade, MetaTrader 4 is one of the software that's out there. It runs on Windows 2016 server, and longer term, I want to see if I can use it in 2019 or 2022. We'll see. Also, it can run on a Mac, but I've not really tested it on a Mac. Let's see if we have a screenshot of it. This is what it looks like when you first run it. And I put a transition there. And this is what happened when I decided to add my own indicators so that I can understand it better. And I also started to do some automation. I was doing some manual trading, which was quite difficult, but I saw a piece of code that said, hey, if you click on this, you can open a trading position. If you click on this, you can close that position. And with this trading, you can trade both ways, buys or sells. Let's not get too deep into that. This is not going to be trading 101. Yeah, anyway, so I started coding, I started scripting this, I started automating it, and it grew, it just grew. It became a monolith. That picture in the bottom right is the monolith in Utah. I think it was just meant to be a piece of art. Anyway, if you can see this code line 331, I use GitHub issues, and I was up to 475, and there's a bug where if I commented out a certain section, it cannot do sell trades, which was weird. And then I had another bug in there. I moved something there because of something. Line 331 and 332 in there. Anyway, it was frustrating. Oh, and here's an architecture diagram. Yeah, it became a pet. As you can see here, it's just an EC2 instance or an Azure VM. Running MetaTrader 4, I had some code, which is on MQL4, which is based in C++. It's on GitHub, and it talks to the broker. And I usually try to log into my instance using a VPN. Anyway, phase 2, because I got frustrated with those bugs. And it was just too difficult trying to add anything new without breaking something else. So yeah, lots of bugs. Some nice logos there, Docker, MongoDB, Node.js. Some nice words about them. I'm not going to read them all out. But I guess I wanted to stay away from the monolith. Although, eventually, the Docker containers became kind of monolithic as well. But yeah, here's another architecture diagram. I added a few things on the left side there. And yeah, I was running 3 Docker containers in a VM or EC2 instance, and 2 of them were running Node.js, and 1 was running MongoDB. It was quite speedy. I had MongoDB running elsewhere, or actually I had Cosmos DB, which is an Azure alternative, and it just wasn't as fast. So, but yeah, having it all in the same instance just made it quicker. But also dangerous. It becomes a single point of failure. Oh, here's some example code. I really got to learn Node.js. This was actually earlier this year when I decided to break it up into containers. Node.js and Express, which is a web framework. I thought I had some additional words for it. Maybe I did in that previous slide. And this is what it looked like in Mongo. This is Mongo Atlas, actually, so not inside the container. But this is what some of the data look like when I sent it from the trading server MetaTrader 4 through the Node.js containers into MongoDB. I then had another container that would go process this information for me and perform trades or close trades. So yeah, that also became a bit cumbersome. So I decided 3 or 4 weeks ago to maybe uplift it once again. I decided to add API Gateway. Possibly last minute, I decided to move the Node.js code into individual lambdas, just easier to manage. I added SQS as a message queue, and I moved the database to Mongo Atlas. So yeah, that's what it looks like. The bottom left side of this architecture diagram is a bit messy because some of it's still work in progress. As a backup, in case the control node, I guess, doesn't work in Lambda, I will keep it on ECS. We'll see. API Gateway. So deploying this was, so I tried to deploy everything using Terraform, TerraGrunt, getting to learn AWS CDK, which is quite handy. And previously, everything would be CloudFormation, Ansible. But API Gateway, I've deployed this at previous places using Jenkins so many times, but I thought I'd give it a go myself, but just did it ClickOps. Clicking away in the AWS console. Eventually, I'll automate it a bit. And yeah, what I learned was with API Gateway is don't forget to create a stage and deploy the APIs to a stage. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. If you try to use APIs, nothing will work. So yeah, that's my first lesson was trying to do this on my own. Okay, so with API Gateway, I guess I've got a shopping list of things to do. One of them is to use a custom domain. So instead of it having a long AWS generated URL, I could use one of my own domains. With API Gateway, you need methods for each SQS queue. At least that's how I do it here. I've got SQS queues, which we'll go into later on, called indicators, instructions, and trades. I know that this works with indicators right now. Or it was. And previously, when I was using Node.js Express, they were called routes or routes. So it was sort of, it made it a bit easier for me to move it off to this way of doing things. All right, Node.js. Moving from phase 2 to phase 3, I've already had to try to uplift from version 14 to version 16. I'm not a software engineer by trade, and so I guess I came into issues where I've had to refactor the code and learnt things like ES6, but still don't really fully understand it. But yeah, so with Node.js, I was moving from the containers over to Lambda functions, integrating it with API Gateway, which I can show you all later on, maybe, and integration with SQS, which is one of the great things about that I like about SQS in Lambda at the moment. I use AWS SAM CLI to do the deployment. I've created some wrapper scripts around it, and also very handy are the VS Code extensions for both AWS and Lambdas. Here's some example code. Actually, on the left is a SAM template that I've modified. If you've not used SAM before, it's the serverless application model that AWS uses, where you can, I guess, quickly create an AWS Lambda. They've got several good examples, and I pretty much just use a Hello World template and modify it for my own use. And on the right there looks like some Node.js talking to MongoDB, which is currently broken right now. Long story. Actually, if any of you can help me fix it, that would be great. All right. Oh, here's the make. This is a really new slide. This is a really quick make file to help me deploy the lambdas. It just runs a couple of scripts. Also note with SAM validate is broken when you use SSM parameters, or at least the SSM parameters that I was using. And yeah, it's become as easy for me to just deploy this from the command line using these commands. I just need to have the app and the queue and make init or make deploy. More on those later on. And yeah, I'm not sure if you can read this, but on the left is the init script. On the right is a deploy script. I've blurred out the AWS accounts from work. Yes. Okay. So yeah, the init script and the deploy script, I pretty much have made it quite generic so that I can deploy the whichever script I wanted in whichever account that I've already pre-filled here with which bucket names I wanted to for the code to get zipped into for CloudFormation to use. Yeah, and I've got on the what happened there? Screensaver. Thanks. On the left-hand side, I'm using sed, which is quite handy to insert various texts into the package.json for Node. Oh yeah, type module is quite important now. All right, SQS. Amazon Simple Queue Service. So integrates with Lambda, which is great. And I've got some definitions there from Wikipedia. I'm not going to go deep into explaining it, but I do have some repressed memories from a previous job where we had to, maybe two previous jobs, where we had to keep RabbitMQ alive because it was important for transactions, for customers, and RabbitMQ being down meant thousands, if not millions of dollars of customers' transactions would not be processed. So I was quite hesitant getting into SQS, which is, I guess, one of Amazon's offerings. There's also Amazon MQ, which I've not gotten into yet. Story for another day. But yeah, I thought this was what I needed though for my apps. Okay, so with SQS, you have queues. I have decided to create the first queue being one for indicators, which let's just go back into one of the previous slides. Oh, you know what? Let's not go back into that slide. I will show you right now what the indicators are from, I guess this is part of a live demo. Is this live? Nothing seems to be moving. Let's go into Euro USD. Okay, yep, it is moving. It's ticking away. So with this is a chart for the euro versus US dollar. Each of these bars represent 1 minute of trading from all over the world. And some of these lines that you can see, some of these dots, this cloud here, which is called a Kumawichi cloud, Ichinoku cloud. The cloud itself is called Akumo. These groupings down the bottom there, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse pointer. These are all indicators. Most of them are lagging indicators, which means that they only update once there is enough data. And so these indicators, sorry, what? I'm not giving financial advice, sorry. Where am I up to? Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I've given the indicators its own queue, so that, and all of the data for each one of those currencies that I will choose to trade for each time frame, it will hopefully go into this indicators queue. So I tried to work on getting that working. I was really happy when I finally had messages available over here in the middle go from 0 to 2. And yeah, that was on the 13th of July, so that wasn't that long ago. I was really elated when I could see the data from the logs. Or I think this is just a console.log output. And especially happy when I could definitely see that it was there in the message queue as a message, and this is what it looked like. So it's not the same as those colorful lines and graphs and clouds and everything, but at least it's something that we can manipulate for later on. Okay, and Mongo Atlas. I so far like Mongo Atlas. It's multi-cloud, so if I move this all back to Azure, then at least I can use it in Azure. I'm not sure if I can migrate what's in AWS there, though. We'll see. Security so far has not been a problem, and this means that I no longer need to run MongoDB inside a Docker container. Yeah, it's a managed service. There are various tiers, and I am just in the free tier. And hopefully we can upgrade tiers. We'll see. That's a story for another day. Oh, and I guess with the different tiers, it's going to have more storage and better performance. Oh, and I guess what next? So this was phase 3. Which is still work in progress, but phase 4, I'm going to see if I can get MetaTrader 4 working with newer versions of Windows. I want to really, really get into MetaTrader 5. MetaTrader 4 has been around for 10 to 15 years or more, and I don't think the brokers out there will want to phase it out, but I want to see what's there with MetaTrader 5 and see if I can easily port my code from MQL4 to MQL5. There are also API offerings out there like CTrader, and I want to try the other brokers, see what they can do that the current broker that I use cannot do. I also want to set up a front end, or at least a mobile app where I can see the trades happening, or at least what the status is, and replatform everything into Azure, just as a DR. And yeah, thank you. Maybe we can do a live demo, and let's see how that goes first, but I can also take questions right now.
All right, does anybody have any questions while we get the demo set up? This is a big room.
Hello. Just a quick question. Any technical requirement that when you go to the stage 3, why any technical requirement that you upgrade about that Log.js from 14 to 16? Yeah, I just want to know about that. Yep.
None really. Node.js 14 is still supported by Lambda. I just thought it's time to go try a newer version of newer version of Node.
So between your different versions where you had EC2 instance and then your second version in containers and the third serverless versions, did you do any kind of performance, look at the difference in performance? Because I assume for a financial trading tool, that's probably the most important thing to look at.
As far as using Lambda versus having everything running in containers?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Once it's all fully working, then there'll be a lot of performance testing going on.
Any other questions? No? Do you want to run through show us a bit of your demo? And if
Okay.
anybody does have any questions, feel free to pop your hand up.
Or if anyone wants to help me fix why it's not getting into MongoDB, you can, look. But let's troubleshoot why. Oh, look at that. We can do a live troubleshooting session, everyone. So yeah, what I did was I clicked on at the moment let's have a look at what the code looks like in the MetaTrader side. MQL4 experts, which I am not. So. Oh, look, there's the API gateway URL. I'm only using Australian dollar versus US dollar, 5-minute intervals, and the code for indicators is here. So everything, I guess the indicators that I wanted to use is all here. Pretty much direct and to the point. Where it sends it to the API is here, and data about this, I guess the time frames. Anyway, and I guess how it formats it to send to the API. So I click on main and click OK, and it hasn't given me any problems from the MetaTrader 4 side. It just says, hey, uninitialized reason 0, which is good. This is really, really, really detailed if it runs into any problems. So I know that this is not where the problem is, which is great. Let's go to API gateway. So it's meant to send it to the API gateway indicators as a post request. On the right there, it's got the Lambda. Let's have a look at dashboard. Yeah, look, it's definitely working. All right, let's have a look at the Lambda. Lambda. Some of these are not mine. Indicators. API to SQS. Yep. Let's go to monitor. Well, error count and success rate. Testing. Let's view that in CloudWatch. $19.51, that sounds about right. And I don't think there are any errors here. Okay. Maybe it's stuck in SQS. So let's go to SQS. Let's refresh this. And indicators says that there are no messages. The Lambda trigger is enabled. Oh, now here's something interesting with SQS. If you configure a Lambda trigger and then you delete the Lambda, I don't think you can remove it from here until you recreate the Lambda and then delete it. So yeah, this one here that's disabled, that's stuck there for eternity, I think, unless if I recreate it exactly with the same name. Yeah, I might do that at another stage. But yeah, I think the message is gone from the queue. The good thing about the Lambda integration with SQS is once SQS has detected that the message has been processed by the Lambda, it will delete it immediately from the queue. And there I was adding code to try and delete it. It didn't need to be done. Let's look at the other Lambda, which takes it from SQS. Also says that it succeeded. But let's go into CloudWatch for more detail. And some of these tabs appear me doing the same thing anyway. A few minutes. And I've got some debug code here to just say, hey, what are we meant to be sending? So it does fetch the data from SQS, and when it sends it to MongoDB, I get this error. Selector must be a valid. That's a different error from before. Okay. Anyway, this was working several weeks ago, and this is entirely my fault for trying to make things better before another presentation. So yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm up to for this particular issue. And yeah, if there are no further questions,
are there any other questions? No?
Cool.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so we're coming to the end. We have one more little segment left, which is our marketplace segment. Now, if you've never seen this before, this is a great time if you are looking to hire people, or if you're someone who's looking for work, or just testing the waters, seeing what's out there. What we normally do is, if you are looking to hire somebody, just pop your hand up, see if there's anybody in the room who's looking to hire. Yeah, there's a couple of people. All right, so I'll bring the mic around to you. Just look at me when I'm walking past, otherwise, because I can't remember everybody's faces. So we want to know who you are, where you work, the kind of people that you're looking for, why people should work for you, that sort of stuff. And if you are looking for work, pay attention to who's speaking, and then when we wrap up, go and mob them.
Cool. Hi, I get to go first.
Yes.
If you didn't see me before, I'm Arjen. I work at our gold sponsor, CMD. We are Best Place to Work, winner of Partner of the Year, all that stuff with AWS. And looking to hire at all levels. The one thing I want to mention though today is we have opened applications for our Future Associates program, which is mentor group wide, so it's not just for platform roles. This is aimed at a 1-year role for people who are just out of uni or self-taught, but with less than a year of experience in the marketplace. To come with us, to come join us, get mentorships, all those kind of things, to basically jumpstart your career in tech. So if that is interesting to you or to somebody you know, applications are open at the moment. I'm not going to rattle off a URL, but I'll post it in Slack later. and you can have a look there.
Yeah, my name's Tom. I work for Four Quarters Recruitment. I think most people see me most meetups. So I do recruit in Microsoft as well. I'll get that one out of the way. But a lot of the work I do is in the AWS DevOps and cloud architecture space. Over the last month, I've actually started to partner with AWS directly as well. So if you actually want to look at roles for Amazon, please feel free to come and reach out to me as well. But there's other consultancies and end clients that I recruit for. Also, if you just want any advice on CVs and stuff like that, feel free to reach out and speak to me after. Cheers.
Hi all, my name's Mike. I work at Enabler with many talented engineers, including Dawn and Lay. My role there, I'm talent acquisition, so my interest is just having a chat to anyone who's working in the industry, whether or not they want to come and join us or not. But I'm very approachable. If you want to have a chat to me at any stage, have a look at our careers website, have any questions at all, feel free to ask away.
Cool. Was there anyone else? No, nice and easy. I played around with the cameras too much now. Video, I should never get given new toys. This is a bad thing. This is a very bad thing. Camera, rear camera, position 1. Hooray, look at that. It's fancy. All right, let's wrap this up. Big thank you to our sponsors, CMD, to Versant, and to Civo for their support this year. Big round of applause for those guys. I always forget that I should have a slide for this, but a big thank you to our speakers tonight, to Jason and to Maya, as well as to Ian and to Dawn for the news segments. This one says August, I checked. So with that, we will be, I got one right. So we'll be back again here next month, last Wednesday of the month, which is the 31st of August. We'll see you then. Thank you very much for coming.